Alrighty, so now, actually I'm going to switch over to Lenox just to keep everything the same in order. Now we're going to switch over to the cast iron abrasive carbide grit. This is not a tooth, it's just a grit. It's been impregnated and adhered to the steel. I've just never seen it done before, so I want to see how it cuts regular mild steel. Maybe it gums up, maybe it doesn't, but normally this would be used for cast iron or stone or floor tile or concrete or something like that. But I just kind of want to see what it does. So we'll give it a try here. I don't know if it's just trying to fill up with steel or what. We're just generating a lot of heat with this, and it doesn't seem like it's doing all that much. I mean, it is cutting it, it's just not cutting it very fast. So can you cut steel with carbide grit? Yeah, but it's just not very pretty, and it takes a long time to do. So there is still some grit in there. It didn't all fall out, but that's what it's going to do. It's going to take a whole lot of time is what it's going to do. And get pretty stinking hot. Very, very hot. So now let's try our other one. These carbide grit blades, I just haven't had much time to try them out on stuff. So I am going to go ahead and continue to use this one. I know it didn't work very good with the mild steel, but maybe this steel is hard enough. It'll help clear out a little bit better. And we'll see how long it lasts on there. Actually, probably just going to switch this one. I can make one more cut with that. Okay, so that one did seem to actually kind of cut faster than the bimetal blades. That's why we don't like the thin blades. That's why they make these thicker blades, because then if they buck or pinch, then they start to warp I'm just trying to see if we're losing grit or if it's clogging up, because either one is going to start to cause this blade to fail. But other than that, I'm more than willing to go ahead and keep trying this thing and see what the limits of this carbide grit actually are. So now that we're up in the higher end of the steel category in the Rockwell hardness scale, basically what's going on is these steels are roughly the same hardness. If this one is possibly not, maybe just a little bit harder. So they're just not going to cut. I mean, two steels that rub up against each other, they're just going to wear each other out. So the only ones left in the playing field are carbide cutters. This is the rem grit, or the carbide grit, and we have the carbide tooth one still left in the game too. So go ahead and see what this does. So, will the carbide cut stainless steel? Yes, it will. It's going to take a while, and you're going to have sore arms if you do very much of it. But it will at least do it. So, let's see. I didn't see any damage on this thing. Let's see here. So it does look like it started to pack up, and basically what I mean by that is if you look at the grit down here at the bottom where it was doing the most cutting, it's starting to fill up and gum up, whereas out here it's not. That's why I'm trying to pull it back, but these thin blades, they get hot, the metal up here gets hot, and then as soon as they bind, they flex, and that's when it starts flapping around all over the place. That's why these thicker blades are better. Especially when you use them in longer ones. But it did cut it, so if you need to cut stainless knife steel, those will do it. Okay, so just for fun, we've got a cobalt drill bit. This is a TTP cobalt drill bit. They actually had theirs tested, and you can see down here that the Super HSS and M35 and M42 Super Cobalt, that's what this is. They actually had this drill bit tested, and it tested at a 66 on the Rockwell hardness scale. The only reason I want to show this is to see if it can do it, because this is the hardest thing I can get my hands on. It's one of the hardest steels available. It's a super alloy. You are not, if it cuts through this stuff, you're not going to find anything else harder. I mean, floor tile, marble, that kind of stuff, maybe. But this is the hardest, most abrasive, high-speed steel that I really know of. It's harder than stainless. It's just nasty, nasty stuff. It's super hard. That's why these drill bits are actually designed to drill through stainless steel. So if that gives you an idea of how hard they actually are. We'll unload this one since this one completely blew apart. And I think the only thing that's going to have even a shot at this is our rim grit. Our carbide grit here. Let's see what it does. bugger. Well, there still is some carbide in there, and it is actually cutting it. It's just generating a lot of heat. Look at that. Okay, so carbide grit. That's really cool. Cast iron abrasive. So yeah, if it's going to cut through that, it's going to cut through just about anything. It's going to clog up with mild steel. It's going to clog up with tool steel. But it will cut them slowly, and it will cut stainless steel. So very, very cool. And we still actually have carbide grit left in there. So there still may be a couple more things. What's failing now, and why this blade keeps getting trashed, is because the carbide takes the heat very, very well. The steel of the actual blade behind it does not. So it gets so superheated that the steel becomes pliable and it bends. You know, this blade is this long, but obviously every time I try and you know, move it around to try and give another spot to give a spot a break, it bucks out and bends. It's done it twice. So, but very, very cool. I mean, that's about the hardest stuff you're really going to find. If it can cut through that, it can cut through just about anything. Even though it was designed for cast iron and tile and concrete and stuff like that and blocks. So, but interesting to know. Okay, so we'll torture this poor carbide grit blade a little bit more and see if it'll do spring steel too. Get it up here. Get it up with some cutting paste. camera keeps moving on me. Well, it did it. It only took 5 minutes. Whew. Now my forearms are all full of, pumped up full of blood. Yeah, I mean the grit stuff will cut it. Obviously the toothed blade will be much better, much faster. Both of these have their spot. I mean, carbide cuts the stuff. It just, if it's in this grit format, where it's just tiny little speckles that are kind of bonded to steel, then it's just going to take a lot longer. As we could tell, that other blade must have cut it in 30 seconds or something like that. Pretty quick, under a minute. This cut it just takes a long time. So these will cut just about anything. When you start getting into your soft steels, they do gum up. So you have to be cutting hard steel, cast iron, stainless steel, tile, brick, stuff like that with this carbide grit.